All right, it's Brett again, and I'm here to show you some of the basic glassware we use in the chemistry lab. So probably the one that you're most familiar with is the beaker. I have a couple different sizes of beaker here. We have a 1 liter beaker, or 1,000 milliliter, and this is graduated in 50 milliliter increments, but it's not a very accurate measurement device. So if the lab manual says you need approximately 500 milliliters of a certain solution, a beaker would be fine to use. But if it says exactly, or if it doesn't specify, you might want to use a different tool for measuring that volume. The smaller beaker here has finer graduations. It's 10 milliliter increments, but again, these would be only good for approximate measurements. Beakers are kind of handy to mix chemicals up in, but they are open on top, so they might splash around a little bit. A different sort of container for measuring and mixing liquids is the Erlenmeyer flask. And again, we have two different sizes, different graduations. This is a 2 liter Erlenmeyer flask and a 50 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask. And the nice thing about an Erlenmeyer flask, if you're mixing chemicals, you can pick it up and kind of gently shake it. And it reduces the possibility of splashing. Okay. If we need to measure something accurately, we're going to use a different tool. And for larger volumes, we would use a graduated cylinder. Graduated cylinders are incremented much more finely, and they are actually calibrated to contain a specific volume. So this is a 100 milliliter graduated cylinder, and it is graduated in 1 milliliter increments. And this is much more accurate than a beaker or an Erlenmeyer flask. The smaller graduated cylinder here is a 10 milliliter graduated cylinder, and this is graduated in 1/10 of a milliliter increments. So again, much more accurate. If you're working with very small volumes, you would want to use a different tool. And that would probably be a pipette. So we have some different styles of pipettes here. We have a 10 milliliter pipette, which is graduated in 1/10 of a milliliter increments. So it's kind of like the smallest graduated cylinder. To use a pipette, you firmly press the pipette pump onto the pipette. You never want to pipette by mouth or without a mechanical pipetting device. And you would just put the pipette into your solution and use the thumb wheel to get the volume you need. So this is a pipette a variable volume pipette. We also have some volumetric pipettes. This is a 1 milliliter volumetric pipette and a 10 milliliter volumetric pipette. And again, they work the same way, but there's only one line on this, and that is the volume that you get. Okay, so the last of the tools to show you is the Buret. And this is a Buret here. The way that Burets get used, you would fill them with a solution, and the solution will be at a certain level in the Buret. And you can use this stopcock to very carefully, okay, and this is kind of a frozen stopcock. You can use this to very carefully allow a very small amount of fluid out of the Buret. And these are great for titration experiments and experiments like that, where you just want kind of almost drop by drop when you get to the end of your titration. So this, you can record the initial fluid level in the Buret, and then record the final fluid level, and then the difference is how much fluid went into your solution, which could be in a beaker or a flask or something like that.